The Sofadio Overdrive is a versatile and affordable option for overdriven sounds. This pedal is fairly new on the market and is currently only available on Amazon. It comes in a slightly altered 1590A style metal enclosure. It seems to be slightly wider, but also slightly shorter than a normal 1590A. It can only be 9V DC powered unless powered externally through a different adapter. This pedal currently costs $26 and again is currently only on Amazon. Hello everyone, and today we are talking about the Sofadio Overdrive. Another Sofadio pedal. Thank you to Sofadio for sending me this pedal along with the entire series. Granted, the series is small right now, but it's still very much appreciated. So there's not much to say about the Overdrive. It's not really breaking new ground, of course, but it does get you some pretty great tones for a pretty great price. I believe they're under $30, just like $1 or so above $25. I'm not exactly sure on the exact price, but yeah, so I've been experimenting with this pedal because I was originally requested to make short-form 2-minute videos for their Amazon page, and for people who have seen my content, they know that is quite the challenge. You probably have seen that if you notice the timestamp or whatever, the length of the video, because I'm gonna guess that's gonna be long. So I know some good tones on this pedal, and I know a lot about how it sounds. So let's just kind of get right into the review. So we have your 3 basic controls. We have level right here. Oh, you can't really see it. Level is right there, and that is just your basic volume. It's the overall volume of how loud the pedal is going to be. In the middle you have drive, which is basically gain. It affects how much distortion you're going to have, and also sort of how much volume, because it adds volume. That's how gain works. But yeah, you have, what is this? It's called tone. Sometimes they, different companies change up the names. So you have tone, which is going to affect the bright and darkness of it, which I think that this pedal actually has a pretty decent overdrive tone. It might be somewhat of like a Tube Screamer clone. I don't have a developed enough ear with overdrive to figure it out really, but that's my best guess. And then we also have a 2-way toggle switch in the very middle where it has normal and I think it's called boost. Yeah. So the boost is something that we'll talk about later, but it's something interesting, and I'm not sure it was for the best, but this pedal still is pretty good overall, especially if you leave it on the normal channel. So let's stop talking about it and start playing. Let's stop flip-flap and make it happen. That's a good saying that I heard from, what's the name? Scar My Guitar. That's a great channel for building guitars if you want to learn about that. And then he also goes and reviews a bunch of cheaper guitars and the build quality of them. So let's turn on the pedal. Everything is set to noon, including the level, which I may need to change. I will change the level based on the microphone volumes, how they're picking them up. I didn't actually set the volumes, which I now realize, which is, I knew I forgot something when I was setting everything up. So let's play a little. Everything at noon. Drive was a little back. And I believe it's on normal. Yes, okay. Alright, I think you get a pretty good idea of how it sounds, which it's just a pretty decent tone overall. It's got that, I think it's got that mid-push kind of punch that guitar really should have in order to sit well in a band mix. So I think that this is just a great pedal. So like I said, the level is just going to control your volume, so we're going to skip that knob. So we're going to work with the 2 knobs, and then we also have 2 alternate settings you got to remember. So let's just do on drive, let's do halfway between minimum and noon. So that's going to be about the 10:30 mark. So let's turn the drive back, see how it sounds as like a light overdrive. So honestly, it just kind of seems like more the same, but with less volume, so therefore kind of less noise. That noise is coming from the amplifier, by the way, not necessarily the pedal. The pedal might cause a little bit of noise because it's a drive pedal, but that noise is coming from the amplifier due to some magnetic field that's happening around here. I tried to figure it out and I could not do it. I don't know. But it's still a decent tone, it's just a little less volume. That's one thing that I did notice, is that this pedal is, I think, quieter than most, because most drive pedals of any kind, I have to run the volume knob fairly low, like at the 9 o'clock position. This one rides at the noon or higher, especially if you want to boost and you have lower gain. Which, speaking of which, let's turn the gain all the way down, which means we might have to turn the volume up. And I believe this is just kind of a boost configuration. It doesn't really clip too awful much, except for the clipping that happens, or distortions, through your speaker or your amplifier. So there's a little bit of grit. I've already been at E standard. Why does that not sound right? I didn't tune up either. That's the first issue. I'm sorry for those of you that have a really good ear and notice that I was out of tune. I think I also might be partially still fighting the intonation a bit. It's hard to tell. I was trying to see if there was an issue with the intonation, and it was pretty close at some points, but then sometimes I don't know if I was pressing down harder, but it seemed like it was pretty off on the, the nut, the nut end, the cowboy chord area, which is where I'm trying to play in right now. So yeah, sorry about that if some of these notes sound a little funky. So it's a pretty glassy, clean tone, and you can get a little more sparkle in there if you want to, if you turn the tone up. So yeah, pretty cool. It can work as either a boost or an overdrive. It works pretty good, and then it also does a light distortion pretty well as well. So that being said, let's turn the gain up to, or what is it called? Drive. Let's turn the drive up to about the 130 position. Got to turn the volume down a bit here. Pretty good, pretty good. Just a little more gain, of course, and we'll just turn the drive all the way up. So this is where it gets to be, you know, fairly gainy, and it gets to be kind of a light distortion. It gets pretty, you get a pretty decent rock tone. I don't know what I'm doing. Pretty cool. I like the drive on this pedal. It's certainly, you know, it's hard for me to say that I don't know for sure if this is going to be the pedal that I put on my board, but so far I have not liked basically any overdrive. So this one, you know, it has a pretty decent tone, but I always have a hard time with overdrive figuring out where I really want it, because it's either that I usually want a boosted clean tone, which I guess this can do, or I want a distortion. Okay, so let's turn the drive back to about the 130 position just to have that nice middle tone for like a nice overdrive. That's kind of where overdrives usually shine, is that 130 drive position. And then we will now mess with the tone. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to post the distortion video because the distortion I am not the most fond of. It has some interesting tones, but it doesn't seem like it works well as a distortion. Honestly, it seems more like a blues overdrive to me. The first thing that I noticed with when I got the overdrive and the distortion, first of all, I was playing through the Line 6 Spider 4, which kind of messes with the tone, but I noticed that these pedals were really dark, so then this one surprised me because it got a lot brighter on a normal amp. Unfortunately, the distortion is still pretty dark. But yeah, we're gonna first go on the dark side of the tone here, and I think that, if I remember correctly, I think it was more actually the distortion that got too dark, but this one gets pretty dark as well. But then again, a lot of pedals, I guess, do. They can. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to the 1130 let's go to the 1030 position on the tone. Does that seem about right? So, still a pretty decent tone, hasn't gotten too dark too quick. Honestly, in the moment here, I think I'm kind of out of it. I think I'm a little too tired that I should be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. I didn't quite tell a difference. Maybe if I went back and forth, I should, but yeah, I didn't hear too much of a difference. It probably just rolled off just a little bit of the pokey high end that might get a little fatiguing to the ear. So let's turn the tone all the way down and see how dark it really gets. So majority of the hiss goes away because a lot of the hiss is always high end. And it still has a decent tone. It's not too dark. So it was surprising when I first got the pedals, or when I first put the pedal into the actual Boss Katana rather than the stinky Line 6 Spider. The Line 6 Spider doesn't play well with other pedals. It has good tones in the amp, but otherwise not so much anywhere else. It also drops the volume, which is honestly surprising. Some overdrives do that because it just doesn't have, I think, enough bass content already there to boost it, because it doesn't really boost it. Only with a lot of these tones, it just kind of cuts either highs or lows. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of common for it to get quieter on the dark tone, I think, with overdrive pedals. Meanwhile, with distortions, usually the bass gets really boosted and it gets louder on those settings, I think, if I remember correctly. Something sounded like it was squeaking on my guitar. think you get the idea. So it gets a little darker than you'd probably normally want to use as maybe an average guitar tone. It's definitely not a lead tone. It could be a decent rhythm tone. It's interesting. It's a little more different than your typical cut and dry guitar sound. So now let's turn the drive or the tone knob up to the 130 position. So already I can hear how much more brittle it gets. Alright, so yeah, you get a pretty good, it's a pretty honestly kind of average light distortion tone that you get from that, because normally, you know, for distortion you want a little more high end so that those notes really poke through in the mix and you get a lot of definition. Most of the note body comes from the mids, but I think a lot of the definition and character comes from the highs. So with that being said, this might get a little piercing and hard to listen to, but we're going to turn the tone all the way up. Now this pedal can get pretty twangy, so let's see how this sounds. a G string really overpowers the other string, the other notes, the definition of the other notes when you, with this real twangy sound. My guess is because that's just kind of the relationship between the wound and unwound strings, especially when you turn, you know, the high end up this much. So yeah, a pretty, you know, it's kind of a lead tone, if you ask me, more if you were going to use this to boost into another pedal maybe, or, you know, basically if you're going to use this as like a solo boost. So you want some more definition on some higher notes. Also more volume, of course, because of that high end. Just kind of works out that way. So, yeah, very cool. This also works pretty well when you turn the gain all the way down. It works kind of like a cowboy tone, if you ask me. Let me just show it to you. So if you turn the drive all the way down and you have the tone all the way up. Alright, so this is one of the tones that I used in my demonstration video for Amazon. Alright, not perfect. I had a hard time trying to play that style when I was doing the actual video too, and my allergies are active, my nose has been super itchy. Oh my god. So yeah, you can get kind of like the Nashville twang sound, if you ask me. I, you know, might be wrong, but it might go well with like a Telecaster or something like that. I don't know. So we went through the tonal sounds normally, going through, how long are we doing? 30 minutes, oh my god. So we went through the normal tonal sounds. Now we're going to go to the boosted setting, which I have some conflicted feelings about this, but we'll save that for a little bit. So let's leave the drive down at 0. We'll turn the volume where it needs to be, and the tone will be at noon. Because the boosted setting does provide quite a bit of volume. It also seems to change the EQ character quite a bit, and so I kind of tried asking them about this, but it was in a much larger post with a lot of observations about when I first was talking to them about the distortion and the overdrive and the overall tone of the pedals. But I didn't know for sure if this boosted setting was actually boosting before or after the overdrive, or if it's trying to actually change the character of the pedal to be more of a boost pedal rather than an overdrive, which honestly I don't know, because I still think that it kind of just is a boost pedal when it's in this form, and you'll see by the drive in a little bit. I don't know how it's going to sound in the in the recording, but in person, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let's start with it on the basic boost settings, I think, for the boosted mode. Since it adds so much more bass, I put the boosted mode, or the boosted, you know, tone type in the Amazon video as the tone all the way up, because this is where, you know, you can see that these pedals are very dark. Alright, so to try and save time, I'm going to try and not play as much on these settings. So let's turn the tone all the way up and just show you my preferred way to use the pedal when it's on the boosted So So it gets a lot more glassy. I think it might be a little bit mid-scooped, so you get this kind of like Fender-like tone. But, you know, obviously I'm not a professional, so these are only things that I've heard. So when I say Fender-like tone, it might not be exactly accurate, but it's my best guess, my best analogy, analog, whatever. So yeah, that's where I prefer to have the tone. So honestly, let's leave the tone there for moving forward. We're gonna mess with the gain knob a little bit here, the drive knob. And so this is a pretty good boost setting where it's pretty clean and it doesn't really distort. The only distortion I think that happens really is through the amplifier, which is cool, which would probably work a lot better with, you know, tubes and stuff like that, but I don't know. So I do want to just try turning up the gain just a small bit and see if it retains that that cleanness, and if you can get a little more volume out of it, and then if it maybe just grits out just a little bit on chords, we'll see. So we're going to turn the drive knob to the 9 o'clock position. There is a little bit of grit, but I think it's just more farting out, and I don't know if it's from the pedal or if it's from the amp. I think it's honestly from the pedal, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the boosted tone if you're not going to use it purely as a boost. Alright, so yeah, it does mostly retain its clean sound. You can just get a little more volume out of it, though that might also change with the volume turning up, with the actual level being turned up. So let's just turn the drive all the way up and see if the distortion sounds as bad as I remember on this setting. Get a lot of volume though, I'll tell you that. But yeah, it kind of fizzles out for some reason. It kind of farts and fizzles. I don't know if that's because of how much bass is there, and if the EQ, in some circuits, a lot of overdrives and distortions, I think, they have EQs so that the distortion only affects certain frequencies, so that you only distort in the mids and maybe a little bit in the highs and then none in the lows, so you don't get the farty sounds. I might be wrong, but I think that that's kind of how this is. I don't know if the EQ got messed up in that. Maybe it didn't work out well in the translation between the great normal overdrive and the okay boosted tones. When you dig in like that, it actually has an interesting, maybe kind of like, I don't know if 60s is the right, you know, description, but it has like this kind of like older style grit, I think. I don't know. It's not as refined, obviously, so it's just, I don't know. It's very interesting, but it's typically not a tone that you're going to want, especially all the time. So to finish this pedal off, I want to try the drive at noon on this setting and see, because obviously you get that interesting grit when it's out there, but I think it might just not be as good if it's subtly there. Subtly, not suddenly, subtly to the B in the word, but it doesn't sound like it when you actually say it. It's still mostly there. I don't know. I kind of like it, actually. Kind of blitzkrieg bop, but try not to play it just in case for whatever reason, I get copyright stricken. I'm not a very high profile target, and normally whenever I play covers of songs, it doesn't pick it up, but who knows, maybe in the future when I actually start getting paid for videos, maybe it will, and then it'll screw me over, but I don't know. It's a very interesting sound, actually. I kind of like that. So I guess maybe, it wouldn't be the tone that I would use all the time. It's not my 100%, like, I gotta have that tone, but I think for someone it actually might be. I kind of changed my opinion in this video of that area. Maybe I should have included, I was kind of getting close on time anyway, because this is actually a quite versatile pedal, if you ask me. I actually didn't have that much trouble making a full-length short video of it, making, satisfying little bits. And there was lots of little bits to put in, even without the boosted mode, because I only put one setting of the boosted mode in, which was the basic boost setting, because before I was like, this sounds like garbage. But now, the tides have turned. I don't know. So do I recommend the Sofadio Overdrive? Yes, and it's not even just because they sent it to me. But then again, I do recommend almost all pedals that come through here. The only one that did not come recommended was the Behringer, the Behringer Hellbabe Wah, because that one they messed up the molding on that, on the inside with how it works. So I had someone post a video in the comments of my video, and they showed their modification and kind of how the inner workings work. It was a pretty good video. I'll try and link to that in the description of this video, just so you have it. But yeah, that one is the only one that has not been recommended so far. And this Overdrive is a good overdrive for lots of different genres. The look might put off a lot of people for a lot of different genres. They're definitely, I feel like the vibe that they went with, that Sofadio's went with this series of pedals, is it's quite dark, and it seems pretty metal, metal. So Overdrive isn't necessarily metal. It's not used in metal songs, but it's not, So I don't know. They're interesting designs, and I like them. But I don't know how the general public is going to receive it, especially if they were a Nashville player. People come in all shapes and forms. So, there might be a Nashville player that's like, that is the look that I want, even though I play in a country band. But yeah, I feel like it might be a put off for a lot of country people being like, hey, what the hell kind of demonic freaking satanic jujitsu looking ass, that kind of thing. So yeah. I like the pedal, and I might even use it on my board once I finally get it converted over to I want to convert my board over to dual lock, but dual lock is expensive. I have a roll. I think I have an 8-foot roll, but it's only an inch wide, and it wouldn't cover the entire pedal board because you have to double cover it because they're 2-inch wide slots, you know, bars. So yeah, I think that I might use it on my board when I finally get it when I finally get a board going again. But yeah, and I highly recommend that you try it out, especially for the low price. If you're overdrive curious, or if you want to have some good overdrive tones just lying around, even if you don't use overdrive all too often. If you're a serious musician, it's sometimes good to just have other pedals lying around that you don't really use. I'm getting thirsty, I'm having voice cracks, but it's sometimes good to have other pedals that you don't use all the time just lying around for creativity reasons and that kind of stuff. You never know. So, if you enjoyed this video, found it informational or entertaining, please consider leaving a like. This channel is normally a guitar and drum related channel, however we do also do some other random stuff from time to time. We've done a Lego build. Well, we did separate ones for each of these, and then we do a lot of 3D printing stuff, we do some 3D design stuff, and there's gonna be some DIY stuff hopefully soon here, we'll see. But yeah, if all of that sounds good, please consider subscribing. That's all I have to say for now, so I'm gonna say bye-bye.